I think it's telling that through 6 practices, Cardell Jones is still getting the majority of reps with the ones. So to say that he's head and shoulders or taking a step forward like you asked, I don't know that would be accurate, but he hasn't done anything to not deserve to take those reps.
Front row, Bill.
It's kind of along the same lines as Doug's question. How different do you think this year's offense will be from last year's?
Oh, every year kind of has its own personality, so it certainly will be different. I remember having the same conversation last year and saying, we'll never leave our core values, core tenets, what we believe in offensively, which is to spread the field horizontally and vertically, to be in the shotgun, to add the quarterback as part of our run game and have that dimension, and to be a downhill, A-gap, tight zone, vertical power, tight zone and power, vertical run team with play action pass off of it. So then what does that evolve to? I don't know, but I think when people ask me what am I maybe most proud of the first couple years here, especially that first year, is, I think I mentioned it, is we didn't fit a square peg into a round hole, and I think it's hard. It's hard to say, well, or not say, this is our system, this is what we do, so we're going to do it because that's what we know how to do, when you got to figure out what everybody can do, what they do well, and try to mask the deficiencies while you're improving them, and yet play to the strengths. So where that's headed after 6 spring practices, I have no idea, but it'll be different.
And again, it's early, but can you give your little capsule view of how the running backs and wide receivers specifically are shaping up?
Good. I mean, nothing. I mean, I don't know. Strong to quite strong.
Are there guys that are kind of taking that step and saying, okay, we can use him?
I walked in a little bit on Coach Myers. I think moving Devin Smith around a little bit, we've done that. That might help him in his development and allow him to utilize what he does best. Obviously, Dontre is playing well, and we haven't even done some of the stuff that we're planning to do with him in terms of getting him in the backfield and getting him some running back touches. And then, Corey Smith, he got a chance to be the best one of the whole group if he plays consistently. Super talented kid that hopefully we can continue to pound home how talented and what that talent can mean to himself and us as a team. And then running backs, Ezekiel is still a bit inconsistent, still plays like a freshman, unfortunately, at times. But of the group, before today, I might have said he was ahead, but Rod made a nice surge today just off what I felt out there, obviously not watching the film. And the other 2 guys, Briante and Warren, are pushing, and they're getting better, and it's noticeable that they haven't lost the drive. I mean, they can still see that there's a battle there, and if they keep busting their tail, they can work their way into that rotation.
Tim.
Yeah, Tom, indulge me here a little bit. Play like I'm one of those quarterbacks. JT or Cardale. But what would you say to them the last 9 practices of spring? What could each one of those guys do to make that move to get your attention, to be the backup guy at least?
Yeah, I tell those 2 guys a lot of the time, just be you. Their strengths are so different. I tell JT, you get paid, and he gets paid a scholarship. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You get paid to make great decisions, to get the ball out of your hands and be accurate. You don't get, you're not going to grow. Your arm this year is not going to get a whole lot stronger, maybe through the weight room and two-a-days and all that, but through these 9 practices, be on time, be accurate, and be right in what you do with the football. Cardell, your strengths are different as well. Cardell is 6'5" and 250 pounds and can throw it through that wall and use some of that. Use the talents that you have, and then while we develop the portions of your game that need to be developed, we'll do that. And Cardell's done a great job. Like I said, I mean, he has done nothing to deserve less reps with the ones right now. He's playing like a quarterback at Ohio State should. But through the 9 practices, we just need for those guys to play to their strengths.
JT, for example, well, let me go Cardale first. We got to watch like 40 minutes of the scrimmage the other day, and the part we got to see, he seemed to have a lot of gunpowder in his gun. I mean, he wasn't hitting a lot of I mean, has he been like that off and on through the spring? Is it,
No.
Is it a point of reeling him in, or just?
No.
Yeah.
It was this is my first scrimmage on a winner-loser day.
Yeah.
Run it as the quarterback with the first offense at The Ohio State University, and I'm nervous as hell.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it showed. Whether, they like this, I wasn't nervous, Coach. Don't tell me, show me. And what they showed on Saturday was not indicative of the previous 4 practices or today's practice. So we got to make sure that they don't get so worked up on a Saturday scrimmage because it's winner-loser day that all their fundamentals and their technique and their knowledge goes out the window.
Can I follow that with one quickie though? But is that the steps you
Is
have
this
to
the
go
Tim
through?
May press conference?
No,
Is that,
yeah,
that
I'm
what
going
it
to
was?
ask
years.
But those are
I'm
the
just-
steps you have to go through when you have young guys who haven't played. They have to have those kind of scrimmages to
Absolutely.
put behind it.
They do, and they both did. I told them after they weren't real happy with me. I said they played like, and I used a couple of words that can't be printed.
Yeah.
And they got upset, and they should be, but not at me, at themselves, for not demonstrating the kind of poise and confidence that they had shown in the previous 4 practices. And so, everything about spring ball is a learning experience, and these guys are doing that each and every rep they take.
Front row, Austin. Tom, you referenced with Dontre how much maybe more you can do with him. How limited was his role last year compared to what you envisioned for the fall, or how much more?
He couldn't play receiver last year. He didn't know what the hell he was doing, and didn't know how to do it. He was 175 pounds or whatever the heck he was. So him and his ability limited us, and the ability doesn't just include running fast, making guys miss. There's a lot that goes into ability and usability in the offense. And he's had a great offseason and really kind of took to the position and is still learning. He still, makes mistakes that you wish he wouldn't at this stage in his career. But, at the end of the day, he played tailback his entire life, and to move him into this kind of quote-unquote hybrid role is, he hadn't been doing it very long. He wasn't an early enrollee last year. He didn't get here until August or June, but, he didn't start playing in the offense until August. And so he's progressing, and he's gotten stronger and bigger and learned how to learn technique. And so the ability, his usability continues to rise with every step he takes in terms of learning how to play the position.
How much of that position requires a wide receiver skill set?
A lot. Yeah. And I don't know. I can't. You guys always want quantification.
I didn't ask for percentage because I didn't say that. But.
A lot.
Front row, Todd.
Tom, this probably isn't the spring that you envision coming in. I mean, you're getting asked a lot about 2 guys who are battling for the backup spot, as opposed to the guy that, is a guy that every coach on this team says is the best player on your team. You really don't have a chance to evaluate him. one, is it frustrating on your end to not be able to develop him at this time of the year when most other guys are being developed? And two, is he making progress out there with what he's being asked to do?
To answer your first question, is it frustrating? Yes. But I think if you dwell on what you can't do with him, you forget, or maybe you don't do justice to the things that we're trying to do with him and for him to improve his game, which is, the camera on his hat, and we've watched that video, and if there's an issue there, I'll talk to him about it. Tonight, he's going to grade JT Barrett like a coach would, and watch the film on his iPad and grade the film plus or minus on every play in 7-on-7, every play in team, to keep him engaged and to provide him, in my opinion, the best way to learn is to teach. I've learned more about football from teaching it to young people than probably any lectures or any older people telling me, because it's kind of a process. It's a trial and error. It's an immersion into the game that he might not have done had he been out there and exhausted from practice and just want to go home and go to sleep and all that. And so I think he's embraced, here's what I can do, and so let's turn a negative into a positive and do that. Your second question was?
Is he progressing with
the
camera? And
oh, yeah, and I can't, again, I don't know, I'll probably know a lot more when I can sit down maybe after the spring and really kind of grill him a little bit. Right now I can tell in the meetings he's more engaged. I can tell in the meetings that he gets a lot more answers to questions correctly, and when he's, you hear his voice and you see what he sees on his little hat cam or whatever we're calling it these days, Braxton cam, he knows what he's doing and he can communicate the game. And I'll say this again, Braxton, in my opinion, has always been very football smart. You don't get to do the things that you do on a football field without kind of understanding what's going on. I think speaking the language like a coach was very, very foreign to him, and so we're trying to develop that as much as possible, because you could ask him questions. You a lot of times get the, I don't know why I knew, I just knew, kind of answer. Well, the first step is knowing, so at least we conquered that part. So now let's figure out how to communicate and speak the language like we do, to allow you the best opportunity when you go interview for a job in March, April, and May of next year, that you present yourself as best you can.
Last question, Dave.
Tom, can you touch on the offensive line a little bit? Obviously losing 4 starters. Pat Elflein's kind of like a second returning starter, though. I mean, is it a big concern without having to quantify it? I mean, just
Yes.
talk about the O-line a little
It's
bit.
big concern. I'd be a lot more concerned if I didn't believe that the talent was there, and I didn't believe in Ed Warner. This group of O-linemen, whether we like to say it or not, is much farther ahead than the group of O-linemen our first spring. I mean, you want to talk about some dudes that needed some molding and some culture and some, Ed Warner basically took the weakness of the offense and within 24 months, less than 24 months, turned it into the absolute, hands down, not even close, strength and backbone of the offense. And so last I checked, Ed Warner's still the offensive line coach, and we're farther along in that room than we were at this time 2 years ago. Is it frustrating a little bit that it doesn't look like it did in 2 days last year? Yeah, it is, but I think when you take a step back and have some perspective and understand the talent that's in that room, and then the guy that's coaching him, you're confident in the future. You're discouraged at the present or frustrated at the present, but certainly confident that the future will take care of itself.
Just a real quick follow-up. Is center pretty much a toss-up between Bourne and Price? I mean,
Yeah, through 6 practices, it'd be two, and the first 2 being non-padded, we really only had 4 padded practices, so it'd be unfair for me to say that there's a leader in that department.
Coach,
Is
thank you.
Hale look
Thanks,
okay?
Tom.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Is that a thumbs up?
Yes.